So now moving on to Act 2, All That Glitters Is Not Gold. Firstly, we see Prince Morocco and Prince Aragon try their luck with the caskets. They fail. So one of the prince chooses the gold casket while the other chooses the silver casket. Later on when we will discuss about the 3 caskets, we will realize why they failed. Jessica is revealed to be in love with a Christian Lorenzo. So Jessica is a Jew, the daughter of a Jew, Shylock, right? And Lorenzo is a Christian. So their match is highly unlikely to be accepted by Shylock. And for that, because she loves Lorenzo, she decides to run away with him. So betrayal of Shylock by Jessica's elopement and theft, own flesh and blood. So although Jessica was Shylock's own flesh and blood, she rather chose love over Shylock because she felt like a prisoner in her own house, right? So what happens that she takes all the jewels and all the money from the house, and then she elopes with Lorenzo with money. News of Antonio's galleon being wrecked. So Antonio's ships are wrecked. Antonio comes to know about that and is very, very depressed. Act 3, Shylock enacts his terms of his debts. So the time comes to an end and Shylock says, okay, now all your ships are wrecked, you cannot pay me money, now I want my pound of flesh. And he is not ready for mercy. Bassanio chooses lead for the caskets and receives the ring from Portia. So now Bassanio also goes and he tries his luck to win Portia over, and he chooses the lead casket, right? Because he does not believe that beauty is only outward, and he is very cautious of appearances can be deceptive, right? So what he does, he chooses the lead casket and receives the ring from Portia, and he is married to Portia. So Antonio is in prison and Portia and Nerissa plan to disguise themselves as men. So what happens now is Antonio is in deep trouble because he would have to give him a pound of his flesh. So Bassanio runs to help him, and when he goes, Portia gives him a ring, right, which shows her love for Bassanio, and she asks him to never part with it. Now in the second part of the act, we see that Portia devises a plan to save Antonio, who is a very true friend of Bassanio, her husband, and they both think of disguising themselves as men. Act 5, Mercy. The trial. First, Portia, disguised as a lawyer, defeats Shylock in a witty move on legality on his claims to spill blood, if thou dost shed one drop of Christian blood. So we see here that Portia and Nerissa disguise themselves and go to the court where the judge is awaiting somebody, right? So they go there, and what happens there is that Portia at first tries to side with Shylock, right? She says that, you know what, you should get justice. He was not able to pay you the 3,000 ducats, and you should get the pound of flesh that was in the deal. And Shylock is totally agreeing with her, and he just wants that what his part of the deal was should be fulfilled, right? But slowly Portia makes the plan work, and in a witty move what she says is that if you want a pound of flesh, then you must weigh it exactly, and it should be only and only flesh, and no blood should be spilled. Now this is an almost impossible and Herculean task, right? So that is something that Shylock is unable to do. Duke grants Shylock his life but splits his wealth between Antonio and the state. Shylock has to become a Christian, right? So what happens next is, because he is unable to take the pound of flesh and he has wasted so much time of the court and falsely accused and has not given any mercy at all. So the Duke, he grants Shylock life. He says, okay, you can live, but you will have to convert to Christianity, and also all your wealth would go to your daughter Jessica and her husband Lorenzo. Bassanio gives Portia, or Balthazar, that is her disguised name, ring as payment. So the Portia, disguised as Balthazar, asks Bassanio as a gift, right, for rescuing his true friend Antonio, and he asks for the ring. Now at first Bassanio does not want to part with it, but out of admiration he gives it. Act 5, lovers unite and Portia reveals the test of fidelity. Now in Act 5 everybody comes back to Belmont and seemingly everyone is happy and everything else is all in place. But what happens now is that Portia and Nurse are both very angry over their husbands because they gave away the rings, and their rings meant were a symbol of their true love and their marriage, and they had given it away. So Portia now reveals that she was the man who was actually there present and giving the Antonio sentence, and then she also tells them that Antonio's ships are not ruined and some of them have come back, so Antonio has not lost everything. And also Jessica and Lorenzo, they inherit Shylock's wealth, as we saw was a part of the deal. So this was the play. Now let's see a bit of Shakespearean style, right? How does he write? So he uses a lot of metaphors. Like he says, that low lines is young ambition's ladder. So young ambition's ladder, a way to the goal. So he uses a lot of metaphors and compares a lot of things. Next he used soliloquies. See, in a lot of plays you would see that one man would have a very long speech and he would just be speaking by himself, right? But if you do that in real life, people would say that it's just a fool's man talk. But here, when great men do such things, they are called soliloquies. Next we have use of asides. When a character says something to the audience but the other character on stage cannot hear it, like muttering to himself, right? So the character talks to himself again, something similar to soliloquies, but soliloquies are long speeches. So now let us talk of the great metaphor used in this play, the 3 caskets. So we will read what was inscribed on them one by one and then try to understand. Gold chest promises, who chooseth me shall gain what many men desire. So see, most men, they just see the outward appearance. They don't go by the inner beauty. They just stay on the surface. If they like what is there on the surface and if they think it is of value, they choose it, right? So everything becomes very materialistic and true characteristics of a person does not remain. So that is what the gold chest symbolizes, and that's why the prince who chose the gold chest failed. Next, another thing, in the gold chest, the prince who had chosen it thought that, okay, Portia is somebody who many men desire, and if I choose this box, then I will have her. So she is somebody that many men desire. That is what was the thinking of the prince when he chose the chest. Next is the silver chest. Silver chest reads, who chooseth me shall get as much as he deserves. Again, silver is a materialistic thing, and when he says that who chooses me shall get as much as he deserves, then inside when we see there is a skull with a letter which says that you are a fool, which in brief says you are a fool, right? So this means that a fool will only deserve a fool, and my daughter is not a fool. You've chosen a very materialistic thing, so you're a fool for that and you do not get Portia, right? This was the silver chest. Next, lead chest reads, who chooseth me must give and hazard all he hath. So understand, lead is not a very pretty one or a very valuable ornament, but still you should not judge anything by its appearance. Appearances can be deceptive, and don't be very materialistic, go by what's inside. A lead casket is actually very strong, right? So who chooseth me must give and hazard all he hath. So even when they were choosing Portia, what they had to do was that they had to give up everything and never marry again if they chose the wrong casket. So it was very similar to this inscription, who chooseth me must give and hazard all he hath. So when Bassanio chose the lead casket, he won Portia's hand. Next we have the themes of the play. The first is prejudice and intolerance. Intolerance of Shylock and other Jews in Venice. So now you must understand that Christians had this latent hatred for the Jews in Venice, and they would never speak any good thing about them. They would always taunt them and say that they make money by illegal means. And with all this happening, the Jews' mind also got twisted. and they became very intolerant towards the Christians, and they became very wicked and merciless. Shakespeare may be actually criticizing the prejudices of the character. Let's read further. Shylock's anger and his desire of revenge are the result of years of abuse and mistreatment, as we just talked about it. Shylock insists that he learned his hatred from Christians. It is Shylock alone who argues that all of the characters are the same in terms of biology and under the law. So Shylock, we see that he says that everybody is equal in front of the law, but Christians, they beg to differ, right? So that's why Shylock says that his anger has been inspired by the Christians. Next theme is that of mercy and justice. So the conflict between Shylock and the Christian character centers around mercy, right? So what happens is that Shylock, because of the anger he has in him, because of two reasons. Firstly, the taunts that Antonio was giving him for a long time, and secondly, because Jessica eloped. So these two reasons resulted him not believing in mercy and humanity, and just and only believing that he should get the justice and the pound of flesh that he deserved. Shylock, on the other hand, is not capable of showing mercy towards Antonio, as we just discussed. Shylock says that the Christians pretend to be merciful, but they actually are not. So let's give this a further read. He says that he has learned the lesson on revenge and intolerance from them. Shylock gives many examples on how mercy has never been shown to him by Christians. By the end of the trial, Portia, in spite of her speech about mercy, does not show any mercy towards Shylock. So we see that what Shylock says actually turns out to be very true. He says that Christians do not show mercy, they just only want mercy, because they are in majority and they completely dominate the Jews and call them usurpers, right? So what happens here is, Portia proves this. Portia comes to the court, she says that okay, mercy should be given, but then she focuses on justice. But in the end, when she twists her play and when she deceives Shylock, she herself does not show any mercy towards Shylock and takes all his wealth and even his religion. Next is the theme of self-interest versus love and friendship. So firstly is the line that Portia says in the play, one half of me is yours, the other half is yours. Mine own, I would say, but if mine then yours, so all yours. So she says that one half of me is yours, but I am yours. So the other half, which is mine, even that is yours. So she is basically telling about her love for Bassanio, that how much she loves Bassanio and how much she is willing to sacrifice and give up for Bassanio. She is saying that she is completely Bassanio's right now. So that is the theme of love for you. Next, friendship often requires sacrifice. Now we see that even when Antonio did not have his ships with him, and all his ships had gone in the world to different places, even at that time he did not back off to support Bassanio. He instead stood there and he supported Bassanio. He said, okay, we'll take the money from Shylock, and when my ships return, I will be the guarantee and give him the money back, right? But at that time, even Antonio had no guarantee that he would be, that all his ships would reach him perfectly well. So this was about love and friendship. Next, let's look at the character sketches. First for Antonio. So the merchant who has love for his friend Bassanio prompts him to sign Sherlock's contract and almost lose his life. So he's a true friend. He knows the value of friendship and he knows how to treat his friends. Antonio is something of a mercurial figure, often inexplicably melancholy, and as Sherlock points out, possessed of an incorrigible dislike of Jews. So we see that in the play, at one point what happens is, Antonio is just very depressed and he has no idea why he is so upset about something. And they ask if it's love, if he has lost his wealth, or is there some other problem. But he just does not say anything and he is just very melancholic about it. So he is a very mercurial and a very moody figure. Sometimes he is happy, sometimes he is helpful, sometimes he is sad. So it all depends on his mercurial nature. Nonetheless, Antonio is beloved of his friends and proves merciful to Shylock, albeit with conditions. So in the end, when Shylock should have shown mercy because he was getting the money that he wanted. Even then Shylock was not showing the mercy even at that time. And Antonio could have taken his life after he won, but he did not do that. He just put on some conditions and let him go. Next we have Shylock, a Jewish moneylender in Venice, angered by his mistreatment at the hands of Venice's Christians, particularly the merchant Antonio. Shylock schemes to get revenge by ruthlessly demanding £1 of Antonio's flesh as penalty for Antonio's defaulting on a loan. So he is a Jew and he is a money lender, and he collects money by unfair means, right? He would take a lot of interest on the money he has given as a loan. So that are unfair means if we see practically. And also he has been taunted for a long time by Antonio that he is a Jew, right? So that also makes him very ruthless and angers him inside. The Christian characters in the play regard Shylock as an inhuman monster, frequently mocking him for being obsessed with money. So again, the age-old strife between the Christians and the Jews. Christians hate the Jews because they think ill of them. They taunt Shylock and they say mean things about him. In person, however, Shylock comes across as far more than a caricature of stereotype. His resentment at his mistreatment, his anger at his daughter's betrayal, and his eloquent expressions of rage make him a convincing, entirely human character. So this character has all the human characteristics, you know, something that you would see that is happening around us. When we have khap panchayats in India, when lovers elope, people want to kill them, and this is something that shows in the revenge that Shylock wants to take, right? And even Shylock is also very bound to get justice. He believes in the power of money and he believes in the power of justice. Next we have Portia, the very beautiful Portia. A wealthy heiress from Belmont, Portia's beauty is matched only by her intelligence. So she is very beautiful and also she is very intelligent because she knows that her duty is foremost and she does not reveal which is the right casket to anybody, including Bassanio. Bound by a clause in her father's will that forces her to marry whichever suitor chooses correctly among 3 caskets, Portia nonetheless longs to marry her true love Bassanio. Now she is also a very loving creature. She would do anything for her husband, right? And that we see when later she uses her clever mind and devises a plan to save Antonio, who is Bassanio's true friend. Far and away the cleverest of all the play characters, Portia disguises herself as a young male law clerk in an attempt to save Antonio from Shylock's knife. So she is clever, she is intelligent,